Welcome to the Biblical Entrepreneurship Marketplace Podcast, or better known for short as the BE Marketplace Podcast. I'm your host, Patrice Sage, and I do have a guest here with me today, part two of our discussion, my good friend, Zach Fay. Zach, how are you?
Doing great, Patrice.
Well, Zach, good to have you with us again. As we, Zach and I had a great discussion earlier. And we got caught up in politics. No, we always kind of get caught in politics. Zach is one of those guys who I just love talking to him about the political thing of the day. He has such great insight. He's so opinionated. No, no, he got great insight because there are very few people, Zach, as you know, that you can talk politics with these days, and you can discuss different issues. Who are, whatever side they're leaning on, we more on the conservative side, and who are open to dissent and and different ideas. That's unfortunate.
It's very
my
unfortunate.
Friend, you're one of those guys who's open to dissent. You don't mind us challenging the sacred cow, and I appreciate that about you.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that about you. That's one of my passions, is the fact that we don't have any civil discourse or any we do, but the exchange of ideas is so important, and to be able to do that in a place where you're not going to attack the person, but it's okay to attack the ideas, but not the person. And so it's fascinating the climate we're in these days. But that's not why we're here.
That's not why we're here. Let's not get distracted here. But I do have to have you back during the political season so we can talk some politics. Because I'm going to devote one podcast a month around politics as we get closer. Because it's a passion of mine. And since it's my podcast, I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. And I do want to talk about politics.
Okay.
I want to offend some people. Well, Zach, last time you were here, we kind of talked about your journey and the trials and triumphs of the early days and so forth, and kind of how it helped to lay the foundation, how Biblical Entrepreneurship was an instrument in helping you with that, and all the various ways that you laid this foundation. And by the way, before we go on, how's your sister, your business partner? How's she doing?
She's doing okay. Did I tell you what all was going on with her?
Yeah,
recently?
You did.
Okay, yeah. So she was diagnosed with breast cancer in January, and she just finished up just in the last week or two her last chemo session, and so. She's feeling a little bit better now, and those kind of take you out for a while, and so hopefully things are looking up with regards to her being cancer free and staying cancer free. That would be
the Lord.
The dream. But she's still got about a year of different doctor visits and infusions of different types of things, but not chemo. So she's done with chemo and she's done with radiation, and she's doing good. And she's such a spark plug of joy that it's been wonderful just learning from her as she's been kind of going through all this.
Who's older, Zach, you or her?
She is 6 years older than me.
Wow, awesome. Well, she got all the joy in the family.
She got all the joy in the family. No question about that. There is no question about that.
So now I see where you get that optimism from. So is your sister. So she has shaped you well. Mm-hmm. Well, we pray for her, and our prayer is that she will not only survive but thrive. And it looks like that is happening. And I know that you and her began this journey together, and it must not have been easy to have your sister, let alone business partner, to be going through it as you're really striving to take the business to the next level. But it looks like you're making it fine. Zach, as you know, we always have this devotional question. As you deal with family issues, business issues, how do you, just stay centered as an entrepreneur in terms of keeping that devotion and prayer time that is so critically important? You told us what you do last time. I want to visit again because some of you listen to this podcast and they did not listen to part one. So talk to us a bit. So how do you make sure you keep it all centered, and why is it important to you?
Incredibly. Well, first of all, Christ is incredibly important because he's, the central figure for all of human history. And also as a Christian, he's the hopefully the center of my life. And I think devotional life is so important because our human nature, not only are we, this is a blessing created in God's image, but we're also, our human heart is sinful. And so I think every day my flesh is trying to make me the center of my life and not him. And the devotional life is so important to not only engage with him relationally, but also be reminded that he is the center. I like the analogy. I forget who made this analogy, but so often we live life as if we are the star of the show, whether it's a movie or a TV show or a play, we live life and make every decision usually as if we are the star of the show, when really Jesus is the star of the show and we're like the stagehands. We're the ones trying to make him look good. And that's what, John the Baptist came to do. And that's what Jesus said we would do as we get empowered by his Spirit, that we will be witnesses, that we will point people to him. And ultimately, that's what all of history is pointing to, and all of not only past history, but the future. Everything's pointing to Jesus. And so I think the devotional life is not only so important for my own sanity, but also, I think sanity really comes from being reminded of the truth. And the truth is he's the center.
I love it. And that he is. We've been doing this devotional series on innovation, and you are an innovator. You've developed something that's really unique. And we had a devotional, I think, a couple of weeks ago, titled Jesus the Innovator. And very few people forget the fact that, this, our Savior in human form came into an environment that was dark and gloomy. It besieged Israel, a dying faith, a fearful people, and he brought a spark. He was a disruptor. He disrupted the way they did church. He challenged the way they did government. He challenged the way the culture was established in terms of the ranking and how they served and how they led. And he sparked a movement as a result that have grown to the fastest and actually more sustainable movement today, with several billion people identify themselves as Christian, and who, by the way, has shaped Western civilization. So when you think about that, and you think about what you've been doing, and you think about the challenge he had and what you've had, not to compare you to Jesus, but to compare you to Jesus, let's talk a bit about, some inspiration that if you reflect on Jesus as an innovator, that you can be inspired from Jesus' own life as one who came to bring something new. And we're going to get after that into what you brought into this marketplace. So I know this is just, we don't give questions before our talk. And so this is just kind of off the cuff. This is good. We'd like to challenge our guests' acumen and how fresh and relevant they are. So Zach, go for it.
So let me make sure I'm understanding the question though, is it, how have I been inspired by Jesus, the Innovator?
Yes.
Well, that's a really good question. I was just reading the Biblical Entrepreneurship Devotional to our team yesterday that you have this week with regards to, I thought it was so fascinating how, Adam and Eve invented clothing, and then God innovated on that.
That's right. That's right. That's my favorite innovative story. Here's the deal. As an inventor, I would love for God to innovate anything I create.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Which is fascinating because it's, there's, you can almost say that we've been called by God. I know I'm not sidestepping your question, but I'm almost going back to the garden, because we've been called by God to cultivate, which really is innovate what he's invented or what he's created. And then at the same time in the garden, or actually after the garden, after the fall, man invented and God innovated on what man did. And what I love about that, and this is where we can get to talking about how this works with Jesus, but really what you see there with God inventing or creating, and then man cultivating or innovating, and man inventing and God innovating, is you really see a partnership developing between God and man, and ultimately knowing that, as we put our trust in Christ, we are in partnership with him, both the creator and the great innovator, the inventor and the innovator. And the thing that's fascinating to me with regards to that partnership, and I'm about to say something that has a lot of theological nuance and implications, but there really is something about being in union with Christ where all of the divine characteristics of God can be reflected in us. And I think it's in either 2 Peter 1 or 1 Peter 1 that tells us that we actually become partakers in the divine nature. I think in the area of innovation, in the area of inspiration and creation and invention, all of that is partaking in the divine nature of God. It's interesting, even this week, I know we'll get to Lightgliders in a second, our game world for kids, but every week there's a new biblical principle that we're teaching. And this week in Lightgliders, we're talking about what it means to be creative and inspired. And those two words come from the biblical truth of creation, the fact that we're made in the image of God. And so there really is a powerful opportunity for everyone, but I think specifically for Christians in regards to not only for everyone, we all get to reflect the image of God. For Christians, we actually get to even partake in the divine nature because we are in union with Christ. And so, and it's something that I love this concept. This is one of my favorite concepts in the world, and it's called perichoresis. Have you ever heard that word before?
No. If I did, I forgot.
The word perichoresis literally means in Greek, dancing around. And it is something that the early church fathers used as a way to describe the relationship within the Trinity. The fact that God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit are literally dancing around each other in the sense that they are engaging in self-giving love at all times. So in other words, this is why you see, like in John 17 or in other, actually a lot of passages in John where you see the Son saying, I'm here to glorify the Father. And you see, you hears about how the Spirit is here to glorify Jesus. And you just see this like interplay of relationship that's constantly going on where all the parties involved are living to glorify the other. And in that, there's a divine dance that is being established. And the thing that I think is so spectacular about salvation is I really believe that at the cross, God invited us into the dance.
I love it.
And so we get to actually engage in a perichoretic relationship with the creator of the universe. And this goes back to your devotional question. I mean, what is devotionals? Devotionals is dancing with God. I mean, that's what our relationship with God is. It's not just supposed to be a static transfer of righteousness. It's supposed to be an ongoing dance, a relational dance where you're living for the other. And in human terms, we see it beautifully in the picture of marriage. You see a husband and a wife, and usually if things are getting stale in a marriage, it's because one party is not dancing. They're not engaging in self-giving love, where the goal is, hey, I'm going to outserve you today. I'm going to outlove you today, not in competition terms, of course, but you know what I mean. And I think that's the type of relationship that God calls us into with him. And as we engage in the divine dance, the inspiration of God, the creativity of God, the innovation of God, all of the characteristics of the divine nature, really the love of God, can flow out of us. And that's why the cross really is the most incredible invitation to humanity that has ever been given.
Oh, preach, brother. I love it. Hey, if anyone listening or watching and you want to be encouraged or have a resource for your weekly devotional, go to our website, nehemiahprice.org, and you can subscribe to it. And that gives you a weekly devotional to help you along the way. So with that, Zach, let's talk about, you've been dancing with God for a while with this thing with Kingdom Scene. And it's an obedient to a calling for you. It's a deployment of a gift that God gave you, an opportunity for you to shape a disciple of the next generation. So first, let's talk about Kingdom Scene, the company. Kingdom Scene, the company. And then let's talk about it's giving birth to Lightglider and kind of how this thing works. So let's start with the company. So about the company a bit, where it's based, and kind of what you're looking to accomplish.
Sure. Yeah. So Kingdom Scene is a startup company that was created with a mission to encourage faith, character, and service into kids before their teenage years, and to be a strategic partner for parents and churches worldwide. And really what that means is a mission statement. That was our mission statement when we started the company many years ago, because the vision behind Kingdom Scene is we wanted to create a business solution to what I would call the crisis of discipleship in our culture today. The reality is the fundamental perspectives on truth, on morality, on purpose, and really even whether life even has meaning, all of those fundamental perspectives are firmly established in kids by the age of 13. And so, really, if we want to see the best return on our investment spiritually, we need to be pouring our best resources into children's ministry, into kids, because, by the time they're in junior high and high school, their foundation of whether they believe the gospel or, what values they're going to take into life, those are already set. And so for some reason, I had been kind of burdened with this this question of how could we in a culturally relevant and potentially global way impact kids before the teenage years. And the two answers that I came up with as I was, researching kids were pivotal experiences and meaningful conversations. And pivotal experiences can be anything from a mission trip to a camp to a weekend retreat, anytime that there's just something that stands out in a kid's life. And then meaningful conversations are more of what I would call discipleship conversations, where someone who cares about you is planting a seed of hope and truth in your heart. And the thing is, parents may not realize this, but they are planting the seeds of faith and values, regardless of what faith or what values those are, during those younger years. And it's a big burden on parents. In fact, and I think they realize it because supposedly 93% of parents feel ill-equipped to impart faith and values into their kids. And so what we're trying to do with Kingdom Scene is we wanted to create a culturally relevant solution that would engage kids at a level of fun, but also would spark ongoing conversations between kids and those who care about them the most throughout the week. And so really we were looking for a culturally relevant discipleship tool that would that could be used on an ongoing basis.
I love it. And with that, Lightglider came to the scene. Forgive the pun.
It took me a second, but that was good.
Yeah. So Lightgliders. So what is that and how does it work? How does it fulfill that mission?
Sure. So going back to the criteria of what's culturally relevant, I just was seeing, this was 10 years ago when I was doing the research on it, was seeing how digitally connected kids are and how that was a trend that was increasing. In fact, the average kid spends between 5 and 7 hours a day in front of a screen and less than 20 minutes in quality time with mom or dad every day. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, could we redeem that screen time? Could we redeem that digital time in such a way that maximizes that quality time between child and mom or dad? And so that led to the creation of a digital game universe called Lightgliders. And Lightgliders is a website. It's an app. It's in the Apple Store. It's in the Google Play Store. It's at www.lightgliders.com. It's basically a cross-platform digital game world that is embedded with a weekly discipleship program that the kids can engage with, but then we also send the program and the reflection questions associated with it to the parents each week, so that kids can go inside this fun game world, create a character, play games, have fun, and then they can also bump into videos and activities that are encouraging a biblical worldview and specific discipleship principles. And then also parents are being sent these tools as well, because ultimately what we're trying to do is to make dinner table time or bedtime or whenever those windows of opportunity for conversation are, we want those to have good conversations. And so that kids are learning not only the gospel, but also how the gospel applies to their life and what values, what positive values come out of living a gospel-centered life. And we want to help mom and dad lay that foundation and give them a tool that they can use.
Well, Zach, so what about those who would say, but Zach, you're kind of drawing people, young people, further into the very tools that seem to be addictive and has a lot of bad content. What's your response to that?
Well, I mean, the digital screens are really the same thing as the television, 25, 30 years ago. Ultimately, I think you want to be careful how you design, number one, because, let me say this. Let me back up and say, digital screen time is here, whether we like it or not. Kids are using it. And so the fact and the reality is parents are fighting against their kids on a regular basis our kids are fighting with their parents for screen time, and their friends are on screens. If they're not allowed screens at home, they'll go get it from their friends' houses. And so one thing that Lightgliders offers is a safe, positive, faith-based tool that's almost like a walled garden for kids, because the reality is with even the quote unquote safe games that are, secular out there, you can very quickly, for example, not to, talk about another product, but there's YouTube Kids out there. YouTube Kids isn't the safest thing in the world for a parent who wants their kids to not be exposed to some negative stuff. And a lot of games out there will take you, will have links and ads that'll take you, down rabbit trails that you don't want your kids to go. And so there are a lot of parents out there who are worried about screen time, but yet they're on a regular basis having to, battle with their child, who wants screen time. So for some families, we offer a safe, positive digital alternative, for their child's screen time. And we have a lot of families that say, yeah, we let our kids on Lightgliders, and they name 3 or 4 other options, and that's their screen time. We control their screen time, whether it's 30 minutes a week or, 15 minutes a day or whatever else. There are some parents that have those kind of parameters. But to go specifically to your question, you don't want to create addicts. And there are a lot of game design or game products out there that are purposely trying to create addicts where you have to play multiple hours every day. We've designed Lightgliders to be able to dip in and dip out. And so, ultimately you can do the discipleship program with just a few minutes, and at the end of each faith component inside of Lightgliders, there's a reflection question. But even the games, you can go in and we'll have some kids who will play, 45 minutes at a time, but a lot of kids will come in and play for 15 to 20 and then come in multiple times throughout the week. And so really, I think there's 2 answers to your question. One is digital screen time is here. So as Christians, let's redeem it. And then the second answer to your question is, I think you want to be from a, caring for your target customer, which are the Christian parents out there. You want to be thoughtful about how you design Lightgliders and how you design the games, because your goal is not to make a kid an addict. Your goal is to make them a fan. And, so that you just want to be thoughtful about the ethos that you utilize with regards to game design.
I love this because, our devotional on Monday is going to be titled "The Danger of Innovation," and we're going to be really dealing with how do we create guardrails around man's imagination as we seek to tap into the creativity that God's placed in us. And you really have what I like about what you're saying is that you really have put some thought into how do I be innovative and bring something valuable to the marketplace, while at the same time creating guardrails, recognizing that there are some trouble spots with it, and how to create guardrails around that. And to me, that's responsible innovation. And that's why the redeeming a commitment from Christian to redeem spaces and processes and tools and markets and so forth is so important. Because if we don't, then the alternative is the world does it, and it's not going to be redemptive. It's going to be creating, as you say, addicts, and creating, devaluing our culture and our society and hindering the faith. So I really like that approach. So have you found that the market is responding, Zach, to your approach?
It is. I think, the thing there's been a lot of challenges building Lightgliders, but I'm learning that there are just as many challenges learning how to sell it effectively and get it in the marketplace. And one of those challenges is we're basically a brand new product category. There is no pre-teenage Christian digital games industry, or at least none that I know of that have working business models. And so we are pioneering a space that hasn't been done before. There's lots of products for kids and lots of substitutes for kids, but specifically with this goal of digital discipleship and this goal of partnering with parents to help them, but while also offering interactive gameplay for their kids, that's something totally new. And so we're facing a lot of the challenges that I assume Christian movies early on faced. There's the instinct right away that because it's Christian, it's not quality. There's the
I feel your pain, brother. I feel your pain.
Yeah, and I think and then there's also because it's unknown. There's obviously funding's always been a challenge, trying to figure out if we want to create something that parallels what's in the marketplace, we need to be able to, create something that parallels what's in the marketplace. And so, that part's not cheap. There's multiple challenges. And then also with regards to the business model, I think there's I fell victim of this idea of, if you build it, they will come. And that is not true. You really need to go out and create the market. And I think in the Christian faith-based market, there's just been a lot of challenges overall, not just for us, but for anyone in the Christian space, mainly because, bricks and mortar stores, Christian bookstores aren't, there are not nearly as many. I mean, there have been some big chains that have gone out of business, or at least have stopped their bricks and mortar stores. And then also, even with regards to the megaphones among the church, you'll appreciate this because it kind of connects to politics. But I really believe, whereas 30 years ago there were 3 or 4 news stations. And then everything moved to 24-hour news, and now we have new media through digital. And I think there are a lot of different, very kind of niche audiences when it comes to news now. Any millennial is not necessarily turning on Fox or CNN. They're going to a specialized website or podcast or whatever else to get their news. And I think we're beginning to see a similar trend among the church, where the church maybe used to have a few big megaphones, such as like a focus on the family or something else like that. But there are now lots of small megaphones. And so when it comes to a marketing strategy or creating something specifically for kids that would go viral among the faith community, there haven't been a lot of, products or services that have done that in recent times, just because there really, it needs to be a lot of energy associated with with talking to all those different audiences within the church.
I love it.
Does that make sense? I hope
it
that
does. It does. Yeah. And I think what happens in the Christian space, which I've been for 20 years, I feel your pain, because we don't have very clear dynamic distribution channels.
Correct.
A lot of our distribution channels are traditional, protective, and not market driven. And so as a result, when you're coming up with a product or service that's very targeted Christian, and we've tried, and I'm sure you do the same, not to use the worldly tactics that unfortunately many Christians have used to achieve the same results, which works. But in the end, we've seen what happened. In the end, it's not edifying. In the end, it creates the same consumerism in the Christian space as it would anywhere in the world. So in other words, it just becomes a Christian packaged product or service deployed in the same way that anything else is done, which devalues it in the end. And so I think what happens is that you're not only struggling with the space that you're in, you're also struggling with the whole Christian industry,
right?
But we're seeing movies have some success, and so hopefully that will create some momentum that will springboard into, Christian music is having some success. But here's the unfortunate thing, Zach: those things have been pivoted also by Hollywood or by the major music industry. So in a sense, we do need, and this is where social media comes in, we need this Christian grassroots channels that can create effectiveness in mobilizing things that we value. You have that for other subgroups.
Right.
Why not for Christians?
Right. I don't know the answer to that. I do think there is a need for, and you teach this in biblical entrepreneurship, but a need for Christian organizations, both churches, nonprofits, and kingdom businesses, to not only, yes, be discerning, but also be open to discern the best way to partner.
You got it. You got it.
And I think,
the first thing is open, because the key is versus being protective.
Correct.
Being open, and that's the key. Well, Zach, it's been fun having you. So in 2 weeks we're having our annual conference, which is the last one here in Washington, in the U.S. So Americans, this is going to be the cheapest Nehemiah week you'll be attending in the next 4 years, because all you got to do is fly to DC or walk, whatever the case may be. Because next year we're going to Mexico. After that, we're going to Congo. After that, we're going to Europe. After that, we're going to Asia. Wow. And we've been in the U.S. It's every 4 years, and so we would love to have you guys. The theme is going to be on innovation. We'll be dealing with different ways that as Christians we can be innovative, showcasing Christian innovation stories like the Zach Phase of the world. And you're going to be hearing from different speakers who have been innovative in this space as Christian, who have dealt with the challenge of being innovative as believers without compromising their faith. The conference is August 19th. That week, for more information, you can visit our website. We'd love to have you there. Zach, if somebody's watching us, listening to this, and they say, you know what, I would like to know more about Kingdom Scenes and Lightgliders, if I want to engage with you either as a partner, as a consumer, whatever, where do they go? What steps would they take?
First thing is go to www.lightgliders.com and take a look at what we're doing. And also feel free to email me personally, Zach, Z-A-C-H, at lightgliders.com.
Wow, awesome. This is a young man who's been innovative you've been at this for a while, Zach, and you've been persistent, uncompromising, and truly committed to bring this solution. You would think churches will be knocking at your doorsteps. They'll be begging you, they'll be subsidizing you, saying, Zach, you are fixing an issue that we have. Every church in America has an issue that their young people are having screen time. How do you redeem that? And so I challenge those who are listening. If you're a pastor of a church, work with a church, contact Zach Fay and partner with him to bring this process into your organization and to truly see if it can make a difference. Here's the deal. Try it. If it doesn't work, then you don't have to continue. But at least make the effort. Be innovative. Be different. Be a disruptor. Stop doing church as usual. It ain't working. That's the bottom line. It ain't working. We got to do something different. Otherwise, we're going to lose our kids. And it's worth us being different, thinking different, and doing things differently. Here's the bottom line. One day, we're all going to stand before the Father. And he doesn't want to hear how well you protected your tradition and your way of life. What he wants to hear is, did you take risk and did you do things differently in order for the gospel to advance and for the kids to be protected and for his will to be done and for the culture to be transformed? Zach, you're doing that, man. We're so proud of you. And this is why we're so excited for what you're doing. So Zach, somebody's listening and they're not just as bold as you are. They're saying, Zach, I got something, I'm thinking different. I want to do it, but I'm afraid. I don't want to go through the challenge you went through. Let's just be honest. I mean, it's hard. I don't want to. This is not a good example because I'm watching how the world is winning and we just ain't. And so they're saying, Zach, what would you say to encourage them? Why would they step in spite of the risk of many years of challenge and trials?
Well, the number one reason why is you not only feel called to it, but those you love and trust and who care about you and care about your relationship with the Lord also feel that you are called to it. If those two things are happening, if you're getting the internal witness that you're supposed to jump in, and then you're also getting the external witness from others that you should jump in, then don't hesitate. Jump in and just know that the two things that are going to sustain you, are perseverance and encouragement. And encouragement takes many forms. Obviously, you need spiritual encouragement. You need advisors. You need, so I guess my biggest encouragement to someone is if you feel called to do it, but don't be an island. Make sure that you are not alone as you're doing it. And I can talk more about that as far as what a startup board should look like, what it should look like, even spiritually, and from a advice standpoint. But I think if you're listening to this podcast, you've heard of biblical entrepreneurship. So I would say make sure that you're connected to BE somehow, and get the principles and practices of biblical entrepreneurship, not only in your head, but in your heart. And you'll begin to see, I think even if you're deciding whether to jump in by taking BE, it'll become more crystallized for you whether the Lord's calling you to do it or not.
Zach, even if it means years of struggle and trials?
If the Lord's calling you to it, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the story of Jeremiah is fascinating to me because he didn't potentially have a single convert to his ministry. And yet he was faithful. And faithfulness is not failure. And so there's, and also, yes, there is worldly failure and there's, but please know also that failure, if you do fail, whatever that is in the world's eyes, failure is an event, not an identity. And your identity is in Christ. So let that be true as you take risk.
You heard it here, guys. That's a tweetable line. Failure is an event, not identity. But before that, you said something else. You said, what did you say? You said failure.
Faithfulness is the goal.
Yeah. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
Faithfulness. I love it. Guys, you heard it here. Yeah. Zach Fay, the founder and CEO of Kingdom Scene and the producer of the game for Christian kids who want to be discipled and the Christian Universe platform for truly that preserve the integrity of helping young people be discipled. If you're a church, if you're a business leader, you want to partner with this guy to bring this into your community. Zach, we love you so much. We so thank God for you. Hey, if you want to maybe meet Zach, I don't know, but meet someone like Zach and others who are innovating and who are just doing it, I want to invite you to Nehemiah Week. Next, in 2 weeks from, a week and a half from today, in Washington, D.C., we'll be gathering together about 100+ of us from all over the world to discuss innovation, how we can be innovative as Jesus was. Go to our website, nehemiahproject.org, nehemiahproject.org to learn more information and register. We do have space for you. Some events are full now, but the main conference is still open and you can be a part of that. The last conference in Washington, in the US, for the next 5 years. And of course, it is also our 20th anniversary as we go back to our birthplace. Well, Zach, if they want more information about you and Kingdom Scene, where do they go?
www.lightgliders.com or email me at zach@lightgliders.com.
I love it. I want to leave you guys with this. May the Lord bless you, and may the Lord shine his face upon you. And may you be faithful to what he's called you to do, so that one day you can hear those words. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. He's going to make you rule over much. God bless you. Zach, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
All right. Love you guys.